All right, so I wanted to take a quick moment, maybe not a quick moment, but a moment to sit and talk about um, these challenges that I see people do all the time. And not that challenges are bad, particularly the short challenges like, 75 hard or, write your book in 30 days or, just doing things quick, fast, and in a hurry. These are things that you see online all the time, these looking for rapid results, fitness tips, or these quick business challenges that we see everywhere on social media every single day. And I just wanted to be able to explain why these sort of high intensity, quick fix sprints ultimately wind up failing all of us. Um, Even if you manage to finish many of them, the results rarely last because when you put yourself into a high stress protocol like that, you comply for the month, 2 months, maybe even 3 months that you participate, but it doesn't actually do anything to rewrite, to rewire, to rewire your brain for most people. Um, like I've seen people do, like, I'm doing 75 hard, and then they do it, and then 6 months later they've gained the weight back plus a lot more. And so I want to be able to invite you today um, into a different type of challenge, if you will. Not necessarily a 30-day sprint that's going to leave you burnt out, um, but a slow way to be able to reclaim, to recommit to things that take months, even years for you to be able to accomplish. I want to emphasize the importance of using a writing practice to really document your process and track what might be invisible to people on the outside. And also to just for yourself, because when you do these fast challenges, whether it's a body challenge, business challenge, or anything else, there might not be a lot happening on the outside, on the outside of the body where people are making progress, but you'll notice differences in how you feel within yourself about yourself and how your mind is working from one moment to the next. So I just wanted to quickly share my own personal milestone. Over the years, I've released about 100 pounds. I didn't do it quickly. Um, I didn't do it in a matter of months. It actually took me a few years. But I want to make it clear that I didn't lose the weight because of a particular diet. I did it because I was committed to changing my life over time. Let me give you a little bit of background. Um, I have I'm not, maybe not always, but I got into food and health and well-being and things some years ago, even before I had left the United States to be able to travel to other countries, like I've been doing for the last 8 years. I got into things like raw food and vegan food, or just um, doing what I guess people would call more now living a more plant-based lifestyle. Um, but really just learning how to cook with real food, learning how to cook with whole. It's not even a diet. It's just doing what a lot of people in the United States don't really realize is we're so far. We don't understand what real food is. And so because we don't understand what real food is, we think that we have to try a diet for a certain amount of time in order to look a certain way. And that's really not the point of what it is that we are supposed to be doing. You're supposed to feed yourself good food Good food, whole food, because that's what your body needs. You're a whole organic human being, and organic human beings need real food in order to live well, to live healthy, to live healthily, excuse me. And so I had to do the work of learning how to do that. And I spent a number of years learning that and processing that. But in the meantime, I was also making a lot of the same decisions that would sort of keep me in the old mindset that demonstrated that I was lacking a sense of self-love, a sense of self respect. Um, I didn't have that. And so whenever I got into this feeling of, my life isn't going the way that I want it to, my relationship isn't the way that I wanted to, um, I wasn't very happy with with the way that my career was going. And so anytime, there was a thing with my boss, I would slip right back into my old uh, habits and things like that. And so over time, I've learned that I had to ask myself if I was feeding an old emotional hurt or if I was feeding true nutritional hunger, which is something that I didn't actually learn until I moved to Thailand. And in Thailand, I had gotten to a point where I was just feeling so terrible in my body. And I'll have to do another video to explain this. But I actually felt like I was in a space where my body was just so sick that I would end up like my mother. My mother died of cancer when she was 49. And at the time, I was in my early 40s. And so I felt like I was on the same trajectory as my mom was. And I actually took the chance on myself to go to Thailand because I was like, well, if I'm going to die, I may as well die doing the things that I'm going to die in the way that I wanted to. But in doing that, I actually found people who were able to help me, to support me, to help me to change my mindset, to be able to help me to learn that investing in myself and myself alone, without anybody else's input from the outside, was actually the thing that I needed to be able to learn patterns of self-love and self-respect, um, and really paying brutal attention to what it is that I was actually feeding myself. Um, so yeah, that was what I wanted to say about that. So I put myself into a program. I work with a nutritionist. I also work with a couple of other spiritual advisors who were able to support me in doing that. And it was a good 6 months of me focusing solely on myself. I really didn't even honestly do a whole lot of work. I did just barely enough work to be able to make enough money, which was the part of the part of the benefit of me moving to Thailand was that Thailand is such an affordable place for people to live. I probably was making $1,200, $1,500 a month. On a good month, I probably made $2,000 a month, which was more than enough that I needed to be able to live, because the herbs that I had bought originally for the whole program, that probably cost me about $1,000 for the cost of the herbs plus the direction that I was paying for, and it was a few more hundreds of dollars for the other people that I was working with. Um, and so it was an affordable um, process for me to be able to go to. I think that's important for me to be able to share. And so I'm in Thailand. I have this 6 months where I am, working on myself, and I'm in a good place where I am supported, and I have people who are, helping me not just with the food. I was actually put on a rather strict diet of a rather mostly fruit diet, fruit meaning things that have seeds in it. And so, that it included traditional fruit. like, fruit, watermelons, different types of melons, mangoes, all sorts of other things, coconuts. But it also included things like eggplant, which has a lot of seeds in it, tomatoes, pumpkin. Um, I ate olives. I ate a crap ton of olives. It didn't even make sense. So, um, and that did help. What I learned during that process is that having access to things that are considered to be fruit, that actually helps to cleanse the system. But what also helped was having the support and the attendance to what I was thinking about the entire 6 months. So it was possible for me to be able to fall down and get into a space where I was in a state of depression. But I also had people whom I had paid money to be able to support me to pull myself out of it, to be able to have discussions with people who could talk to me about why it is that I was feeling that way, what had happened in my life, what were the patterns in my life that made me think the way that I was thinking, and how to be able to pull myself up out of it. That was also just as the food is important, but that mental support is even more important. And that mental support came from the people that I was working with, and then what they taught me, I was able to um, learn how to support myself with the writing processes that I started to integrate into the work that I was doing for myself. I was only doing this for this. This is totally just me. Not, I wasn't teaching anybody anything. This was just me, the people I was working with, and God. To be honest, that was it. Um, I'm looking at my notes to make sure that I cover everything that I want to be able to cover. And so in going through this process of learning how to, I won't even say that I needed to learn how to change my food. I had learned all of that stuff. I was a certified raw food chef before I even went overseas to go to Thailand, even with the 100 pounds overweight. I'm a certified raw food chef. I understand, raw foods or just living a whole, eating good food. I understand what that does for the body, but it wasn't my knowledge of it that was the problem. The problem was my own particular mindset. And so when those two were able to come together, that was when I started to be able to see results. When I was doing the program, when I was in Thailand, people, I didn't pay attention to, how much weight I was losing because I had um, patterns in the past of just body dysmorphia, um, and just, feeling bad about what my body was and what the number on the scale was, instead of paying more attention to health and well-being. And so it wasn't actually towards the end of this particular 6-month program that I actually got the nerve up to weigh myself. At the end of the program, I went to a mall because I didn't have a scale. Went to a mall, went to weigh myself, and I saw that I was a good 60 pounds lighter than what I had started in a matter of 6 months. And some people have told me that that was slow, that was just too slow. You know, do what you want to do. And then, it was clear I still had more weight to lose. And I'll be honest with you, even today, 8 years later, I probably still have a good, good 50 pounds that I would personally like to lose. This is just my own feeling. I would like to be able to lose another 50 pounds to be able to be at a real healthy weight. Um, But I lost that initial 60 pounds. And then on top of that, I lost an additional 40 or so pounds. I tend to fluctuate depending on what country I'm in and what I'm eating. But 30 to 40 pounds I've lost, an additional on top of that 60 pounds that I lost initially in Thailand. Um, and what I noticed was that when I started to share my story with people that were around me, or people, I would meet people who had podcasts, and I would be on people's podcasts to tell them about my life and what I was doing, um, traveling overseas. And they would ask, uh, other people would find the podcast. And so when they would meet me, they would contact me online or they would meet me in person and they would ask for tips. They wanted tips on, how they could incorporate what I have done into their own lives. And child, I used to spend so much time sitting with people. I used to spend so much time sitting with people, telling them the process that I went through. Here's what I took, here's what I ate, da 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 da. And a lot of the times, people would take that information and do absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And for a few years, it actually confused me. Um, I'm giving them the information. I'm giving them everything that I could to be able to, to help them on their particular journey with their health and well-being. And to see that information in most circumstances go absolutely nowhere. Um, I was kind of tired, I'll be honest. And so I've kind of stopped. I've stopped doing that. I don't really, I'll tell, I'll share, bits and pieces, but I don't go into as much detail as I used to because it's not useful, particularly because I was giving it away for free. Um, and what I have found is that, I went and I spent a good chunk of change to be able to get myself into this initial program and have since then invested in myself in other ways in in coaching and counseling, in therapy, um, different types of programs and things that sort of expanded my mind in understanding who I am so that I don't fall back into those old patterns of who it is that I used to be. And so I realized that a lot of people don't know how to do that yet, which is fine. You know, I we probably have all done that in some way, shape, or form, including myself. But I realize that a lot of people just want a quick fix to their problem. They're not interested in sitting down and reading and hiring the right person or looking for the right person, because the way that I did it may not be the right way for you to be able to do it. You may need something totally different from what it is that I experienced. What I got was exactly designed, God designed for me. Like this wasn't like I don't. People ask me, how do I know that I found the right people to work with? The honest answer is I went to Thailand saying that I was going to look. I said that I would know when I found the right person because I met a lot of people. I met a lot of people in Thailand, but when I found the right person, there was just something in my spirit that said, "This is it. This is the time is now for us to start this in the way um, that you needed to be done." And so it always boggles me how how much even if you can't go to Thailand, and I'm not saying that everyone does or that you even should, but there's so much information on the internet. There's so much, like, people don't even start there. Like just basic, like how to find nutritious food in the States. And I understand that, stuff is going on right now, and things are much more expensive than what they were at a time. But there's all sorts of ways to be able to find nutritious food at a fairly decent price if you just do some Googling. Just do some Googling. If you care enough, you will find the information. But you have to care enough about yourself to be able to find the information. Um, and be willing to find a way that you can hire different types of professionals that speak to what looks well and good to you. um, Dig into various areas of spirituality, even things that may not um, agree with your particular religion. If you do religion, I'm not a particularly religious person, but I was willing and open to do whatever showed up, and it felt good to me. I did it. I was open to it. I surrendered to the process. I was open. Once I had done the 6 months of the program, and I was told that I was able to go out and just sort of explore. I was, I when I finished the programs of 6 months, and I had been doing the 6 months of a largely fruit diet. I wanted to be given some sort of a diet to be able to transition into life, just regular life going around. And I was told, you know what, Helena, just instead of doing that, feel free to explore, experiment, see what looks good or feels good to you. Learn what it means to be able to eat certain foods and learn how it feels within your body. And because I had done such a really good job of cleaning out my gut, um, food reacted differently to me. It felt like I could feel it more because I had cleaned out so much of my gut and my digestive system. And so when I would eat certain greens, it was like, my whole body lit up. I remember going to Cambodia, and there was a particular grocery store where you can get these huge pieces of salmon that probably would have cost a good $25-$30 um, in the States. You can get them in Cambodia for like less than $5. It was barely $5. And so I would get that, and I would take it back to the place that I was living at, and I chopped it up into three pieces, and I was like, I'm going to make three different salads. 3 different salads over the next 2-3 days. And I remember eating that first bite of salmon after months of just the fruit and cleaning out my gut, and it was like somebody had turned the lights on in my brain. And it's the omega-3s. We need omega-3s in our diet. It was the omega-3s it was like somebody had just turned the light on, and it was like tingling in the brain. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And nobody had really told me to just go out and explore and look at food as a way of being fun and joyful and discovery. We don't get to do enough of that. Um, we also Another thing that really mattered was the process of grieving. I use writing a lot in my process of, just in writing, I mean just journaling. In the act of learning to become creative again. Because prior to going to Thailand, I felt like my creativity was leaving me. And of course, as a person who's a writer, if your creativity is leaving you, you know, you can't work. Let me adjust my chair. And so in my writing, in this process, that 6 months of process that I was going through, a lot of what I was struggling with and what I was going through was a matter of not being able to grieve. I had lost my mom. She died when she was 49 from breast cancer. My career wasn't going the way that I was wanted to go through, and so I had planned a certain number of years, and I was grieving the fact that I felt like a failure. I had dropped out of school. I had really flunked out of school. Um, I had, my relationship, my marriage was a complete failure. What I thought it was really wasn't what it was. Which happens all the time. Um, but I had never given myself an opportunity to really express those things. I had nowhere to be able to put it. And so um, I put it in writing. And so there would be times in putting it in writing um, during that 6 months where I would just wake up literally at 3 o'clock in the morning, and like there would be some sort of like as we like to say, a download, and I needed to tell it to somebody, I needed to express it. So I always kept my journal next to my bed, and I would pull the journal out and I would write down that particular thought, and I would write and write and write until sometimes I would continue to write just until the sun was coming up, and then I would fall right back to sleep. And that felt good to be able to express myself in that way. And then, of course, I learned a number of things like, meditation and just being able to walk, and using those healthy activities as a way to be able to express my grief. Um, that was really important for me to be able to learn how to do. Um, and so I really wanted to just share this because, generally speaking, this is a channel for people who are writers, people who are interested in writing. And not, you can also watch it for general, personal motivation if that's what you want to do too. Um, because I feel like, because I put myself through this particular challenge, because I chose to do the hard thing, that I have no choice but to become a better writer. I have become a writer who has more to say because I specifically have chosen to do the hard thing. I have a story to tell now. I have many stories to tell now. I have advice that I can offer. I have wisdom that I can offer to people. Um, and I feel like, because we're always looking for the hack, we're missing opportunities for us to be able to write a better story, to write a more interesting story, to write a story that transforms yourself and the people who read it. So if you want to be interesting, you've got to do things that make you interesting. Doesn't mean that you got to, pack up, move to Thailand or, wherever. Stay right where you are. But putting yourself through difficult challenges in life creates character. It really does. It creates character. And this is something that you need to find yourself doing over and over and over again in life. And I know it's really popular for people to be able to talk about, particularly women, and even more so Black women, that we want a soft life, that we want to just sort of lay back and eat grapes and have things come to us. And not that you can't have moments of that, because God knows I have had some soft life moments. Oh, Jesus, I can write another book about that. I have had some wonderful soft life moments in the past 8 years that I have left the US, and, just sort of trotted around the world doing what I wanted to do. But it's only those soft life moments come as a result of the challenges that I have decided to put myself in. Um, So yeah, that was really what I wanted to be able to share with you today. Um, I just shared, I think it was last night. Yeah, last night. I just shared a brand new Substack essay. It's called Remembering the Last Time My Mother Cooked for Me. And I'm, just sharing a story about, the small dish my mom prepared for me when maybe just a couple of months before she had gone into hospice and eventually passed away from breast cancer at the age of 49. And that is I don't even know how that event sort of popped up in my head. And I'm always finding that there are things that I need to remember and process. And so I use that as an opportunity. I use writing as my opportunity as part of my grieving process so that I don't break down for months, maybe even years at a time. Because I'm able to find pockets of where it is like something comes up and I need to remember it. And I'm particularly remembering because I just turned 49 myself. And so these memories are coming up and I need to remember them and process them in a way that is healthy for me. So that I can walk into age 50 and be able to go forth and move on with the direction of my life um, in a way that I wanted to, the way that I needed to. Um, and so yeah, and right now um, you can go to Substack. The link is helana.substack.com. I have the link in the description box. And so you can go there and you can read it. I also included at the end of that particular essay, it's not that long, it's maybe about a 4 or 5 minute read. I also included a way for you to be able to journal and to be able to think about perhaps your last meal with someone that you love and miss. Um, And if you want to be able to sit down and be able to write, and you can answer the questions in your own personal journal. And you can share some of the thoughts in the comments as well. I would love to be able to hear your thoughts if you're obliged to that open to that sort of a thing. Also, if you would like, right now, the Substack is $30 a year. I would love for you to become a paid subscriber. Um, what I'm doing now is I'm going to start writing weekly and including, these deep journaling prompts. I for a good year and a half, I did something called the Wednesday AM meditative writing sessions, and we would meet every Wednesday for an hour, and we would meditate, get into the topic of the day, and then there were like three really core deep journaling questions. I really hate these really basic, simple, journaling prompts that people are putting out there. There's sort of ordinary, nothing really to think about. These are really juicy questions that I'm asking people to really sit with and to think about and to see where it takes you. And I'm not saying that they will completely shift your whole life, but the process, these big juicy questions, particularly if you're a woman in midlife. If you're a woman in midlife in your 40s, 50s, 60s and up, this process of writing this down is a way for you to be able to sort of excavate the wisdom that you already have within you. What have you already survived? And what wisdom did you pull from it? And how could you you'll start with time, you'll start to figure out um, that this process of knowing what you know in the very soul of your being that you can never unknow. this particular piece of information. And that becomes wisdom that you can pass on to your daughters, your nieces, um, and all the younger women who are coming behind you. I think that's so important. That's so important right now. And so I would love to have your support. It's $30 for the year, for right now. $30 for the year for my subset. So go to Halana, HALONA.substack.com. The link is in the description. Also, please do, if this video brought you anything, please do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, a question. Was this helpful for you? I don't know. Should I continue to bother with these videos? Do you care? I don't know. But I would love to be able to know what you think. So that's all. I am off. I'm going to go to the grocery store, not the grocery store, but to the local smaller market. I'm going to buy myself some, what am I getting? Oh, I wanted to make myself a nice parsley salad. Let's see, it's gonna have parsley, tomatoes, cucumber, onion. It may have like mango in it. Okra, if they have okra. I like fresh okra. Do you like fresh okra? I love fresh okra in a fresh salad. It's delicious. And I might put a couple of boiled eggs on the top of that. And that's gonna be my dinner for today. I'm excited. And then the dressing, it'll probably be just like lime juice with garlic, fresh garlic, some olive oil, and a little salt. And I'll probably mix in some sort of spice, some sort of seasoning like oregano or something. Maybe some basil, fresh basil if they have it. All right, so that's all I got. I'm Halana Black. I will see you tomorrow with another video. Peace.